Tasmania's changing wilderness is facing its most tumultuous period since European colonisation. Bushfires are beginning to change the landscape and threaten more than just the native wildlife.
The situation in Tasmania is basically complicated by the fact of climate change, that we're seeing the landscape drying out. We're seeing higher temperatures in the summer, longer fire seasons.
What I've seen as a bushwalker over the last decade is our forests drying up, the soils that everything grows out of drying up, and that is from the wet forests, the rainforests, all the way up to the alpine zones. So early in summer now, we are seeing places that should be wet and should not ignite in a fire becoming dry and flammable.
Tasmania is vulnerable to fire because an ancient 1,000-year-old tradition of burning landscapes skillfully by the Tasmanian Aborigines has been disrupted by colonisation, leading to increased fire hazard across the landscape.
Currently, Tasmania is trending on a 3-year cycle of intense bushfires that decimate flora and fauna, as well as threatening populations and homes.
What those of us that spend a lot of time in the bush are really worried about is that will increase to a 2-yearly cycle or a yearly cycle. The last set of fires that went through happened in such a catastrophic scale that we only need a few events like that, and the overland track, for example, or the walls of Jerusalem could be wiped out.
No, the fluctuations are short term within January, February, December, March, that sort of time. So the averages of rainfall remain the same, and averages of temperatures are more or less remain the same, but you get more extremes within that period.
A lower than average rainfall and an increasing trend in warmer weather is leaving Tasmania's alpine and scrublands drier than previous years.
Alpine ecosystems are really sensitive. There's a lot of the dominant species in alpine ecosystems, like deciduous beech and the dwarf pines, basically hopeless. Burn them, that's the end of them really. They don't disperse very well. They don't get back very quickly. And so that's our main worry really, because these species also happen to be the ones that have survived since the Cretaceous and are paleoendemics and are global significance, World Heritage significance.
It's not just the intensity of the fires, and it's not just the area of the fires, it's also the frequency of the fires and different mixtures of those factors. But when you put extra fire activity into the landscape, you can change the landscape because those fires filter the vegetation types that can resist them. So you can take, for instance, temperate rainforest and you can convert it into a flammable scrub. You can take tall wet eucalypt forests, old growth forests, and you can convert them into more combustible regrowth forests.
Dry lightning, coupled with drying soil, has created an increase in area and number of uncontrollable fires. According to a report conducted in 2017 by the Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Society, lightning strikes are the most significant cause of bushfires within World Heritage and wilderness areas.
We're getting lightning fires now that we didn't get 15 years ago, and that's basically because the pressure gradient from the mainland to the Southern Ocean has steepened, making winds stronger and getting more disruptive conditions when fronts hit the mountains of Tasmania. So we get more unstable air and we're getting more dry lightning strikes.
What we're also seeing over the last decade is a massive increase in dry lightning events. And so coupled with a dry landscape and dry soils, these places are going up early in summer, and those fires are burning all summer long.
According to the Bureau of Meteorology, this December was the warmest on record in Tasmania. Tourism, agriculture, as well as a varied array of industries, are feeling the effects of an ever-lengthening and intensifying fire season.
Tourism is without doubt the largest growing sector in the Tasmanian economy. It's vitally important. The Tasmanian Wilderness World Heritage Area is Tasmania's greatest asset. Areas like the Overland Track and the Walls of Jerusalem are the crowning jewels. If they are to burn, then we would see tourist numbers drop off completely for those areas.
Well, it affects the tourism industry pretty badly when we have fires because you have to close down parks because you can't really risk having people out on tracks in the parks. And so this summer lots of the parks were closed.
Tahoon Airwalk on Tasmania's southeast coast usually sees about 100,000 tourists come through its doors each season.
Probably the most underestimated effect of smoke, these extreme smoke events from wildfires, is the aviation industry. Completely shuts down light aircraft movements. I've been stranded actually in the Bass Strait during the 2016 fires because it was impossible to fly light aircraft safely.
Current projections by the Bureau of Meteorology are that the likelihood of an El Niño weather event affecting Australia in 2019 is well over 50%. If this were to occur in conjunction with a warmer than average year and lower moisture levels in topsoil, Tasmania could be on the path to have its worst fire season in memory.
What's my bet for the coming fire season? Bad. It's too dry. The globe is getting warmer, and if we have an El Niño, not whether it's this summer or the next summer, we're going to have an El Niño, which means about an extra degree on top of what we're already seeing, and extreme dryness on top of already the drying trend. You could see a fire disaster that simply defies the imagination of most Australians.
I await the dark evening sky for the night to unravel my mind, to suspend this disbelief in vague mysteries. I await